Hi, and welcome to Scale Model Basics. I'm Aaron Skinner. I'm going to be showing you how to get a smooth paint job with your airbrush. Now, when I started building models and really started airbrushing, I knew I could put paint on the model and it looked pretty good, but I was really envious when I went to shows and club meetings at how smooth other people were getting their paint. I always seemed to have rough patches in mine. So I worked very hard to learn the techniques to get that smooth paint job, which is what I'm going to be showing you today. The first step is surface preparation. Now I have this WWII 520, this Tamiya 148 scale kit. Astute viewers may recognize it from when I painted the cockpit in a previous episode. You can see a link in the description to that video. I've masked all that work off so as not to mess it up. And I have glued the model together, finished it up, and primed it. Filled all the gaps, reprimed, filled a couple more gaps, and reprimed again. So now I am ready for paint, but before I go to the paint booth, I'm going to sand the surface smooth. I have some 2000 grit sandpaper here, sanding pad, and I'm just going to lightly rub the surface. You do not want to press hard for the most part. All you're really trying to do is knock down any rough areas. The reason you want to knock down the rough areas is that each subsequent layer of paint that you put on the model will exacerbate that roughness. It will start to accumulate on that roughness, kind of like anything that accumulates on rough stuff, and you will get rougher and rougher as you get more paint, and you get to a point where you can't really rub it out because every time you sand that, you're going to be revealing the lighter colors below, and it's just never going to look the way you want it to look. So don't go hard, just press lightly and take care of those rough spots. So if you see I've got like a rough area on this wingtip, you can spend a little bit more time working on that. There's a rough area back here on the spine. I'm going to knock that down too, a little harder. But otherwise, I just generally want to make sure that this primer is as smooth as possible before I go to the paint booth. Now, even though you're not pressing very hard, it is possible that in a couple areas, particularly like raised features, or if you have to work a little bit harder, that you will rub through the primer and expose the plastic or something else below. You can see it here on the spine where I had to do a little extra work. This is so small that I'm not going to worry about it terribly. If you sand off a lot of primer, then you probably want to go back in and just reprime those areas and then hit them with the sanding again. You don't need to do a whole lot of the priming. You don't need to reprime the entire model, just spot prime those areas. And then finally, to clean up the dust or any residue that you get on the model from sanding, use a tack cloth. You can find these at automotive repair shops. A few model companies sell them also. You want it to be not too sticky because you don't want to leave the sticky residue on the model. But what this will do is this cloth is just slightly tacky, as the name implies, and you just want to go over the surface and pick up any sanding dust that was left by your sanding that may interfere with paint and cause, again, more rough spots. You don't want to trap that residue, that dust, under the layers of paint. Again, you don't need to press hard, you just need to go over the model, and you can see that I'm picking up a little bit of gray residue on the tack cloth. Now, obviously, you didn't see me sand the entire model. We stuck to particular areas of interest as well as just the general techniques. But I did go over the entire model with that 2000 grit sanding pad to be sure that the surface is as smooth as possible before paint. I also did not show the entire tack cloth process, but we did go over the entire model with the tack cloth to be sure again that all of that residue is gone. Now, this is a relatively smooth model of an airplane. There's not a lot of extruding, extending, protruding, that's the word I'm looking for, protruding surface detail. What if you have something like that? For example, this razor crest. Now this has a lot of bits and pieces poking up, a lot of greeblies that stick out from the surface. But it's also going to be a metallic finish, so you really want it to be as smooth as possible. The secret is to make sure you're sticking to sanding the smooth areas and don't, again, hit anything too hard. The 2000 grit shouldn't go through your primer unless you press really hard. And I'd avoid sanding areas like this detail here, where just a light sanding will probably take the paint off the edges. Instead, sand up close to it and avoid those areas. The secret is you want to make sure it's as smooth as possible. Now, tanks are one of those areas that can be particularly problematic to sand smooth because they have a lot of little bits and pieces that protrude from the surface. The secret there, again, is to sand carefully around them so you're not snagging parts. And when you're using the tack cloth, you want to be really careful not to snag a part, because photo etch parts in particular will go launching into the ether, and we have enough problem with that with our tweezers without doing it with the tack cloth. On that note, we're off to the paint booth. The first thing I like to do is spray paint into corners like the wing roots on this airplane or these intakes at the front. That helps to get paint into those tight spots without you overloading it. When you finish painting the big areas and you need to come back in and make sure you're getting those well painted, it can be easy to get too much paint there. On an aircraft like this, it's things like the wing roots and the corners between the tail planes and the vertical stabilizer. On a tank, you want to go through and do things like engine grills, fender gaps, around the running gear, those kind of things. Right, so now that all the corners are pre-painted, it's time for the large surfaces. I'm going to start with this starboard wing. You want to start off the model and end off the model so that you're painting through the model, and then it's just smooth, easy strokes. This first layer is not a coverage layer. You're just trying to get some paint on the model that the next layers can build up on. And you want to build up in thin layers rather than trying to flood the surface with paint the first time, because that's a good way to obscure surface detail. So now I'm going to go back. This is the second layer. And starting again, this is heavier this time, and you really want to be sure you're overlapping each pass a little bit on the last one so that you get that good density and coverage. And for the final layer, rather than going in the direction of airflow, I'm going to go lengthwise. So I will start at the wingtip, and I'm just going to run along back and forth. Now you can't stop at can't go past the wing root like you could on the trailing edge. So just make sure you keep the brush moving. This helps even out all of the previous layer. Regardless of what you're painting, whether it's the wings or the fuselage, you want to keep the airbrush within an inch or two of the surface of the model. This will prevent the atomized paint from drying before it hits the surface. That drying paint will create a gritty or sandpaper-like texture on your model, which can be very hard to remove. With the wings, it's easy to start and end each pass off the model. On the fuselage, because of the way it's structured, that can be more difficult. So you may have to reverse direction on the model. The main thing is, do not stop. If you need to, pull up short, just reverse direction immediately and keep going back the other direction. Don't stop, because that causes paint runs. So for the blue-gray on the upper surface of this Dewatine, I am using Tamiya acrylics, mixed at the ratios that the kit suggests for the color, and then thinned about 50% with Tamiya's acrylic thinner. Now that acrylic thinner has a mild retarder in it, which slows drying just a touch and contributes to a smooth finish. But really, it doesn't matter what kind of paint you're using. These basic techniques, working in thin layers, will help give you smooth finishes on your models. So that is the blue-gray on the top of the model. You can see it looks pretty smooth straight from the airbrush, but before I go on to the next couple of colors, this is a 3-color camouflage, I will do what I did with the first layer, and that is sand this just lightly with the 2000 grit to knock down any roughness and take out any schmutz, like I can see a little hair here, that have landed in the model. That will help make sure that the next layer and the layer after that are as smooth as they possibly can be. So that's how you get smooth paint. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.